Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above. The crypto market has been making some noticeable moves since my last video, and now we're seeing things start to stall out, with Bitcoin taking a pause at 25K and the stock market chopping around in this crucial week. So in today's video, I'll be focusing on the key dates to look out for with a Gematria decode, and of course going over the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, and I'll even touch on Hex, which has gotten a lot of requests since the Hex community has started paying attention to my work. Again, appreciate all of your support. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So we're going to be getting into some dates as mentioned, and just to kick things off right away, today is 2/22, the 2/22 date, and we're officially 57 days until the upcoming solar eclipse. And this is the big solar eclipse on April 20th that I've been talking about a lot lately. And that 57 days connection is big because we just had that Super Bowl 57 ritual that the Chiefs won. So if you're brand new to my work today, welcome. But we've been discussing the importance of these big sports rituals and how when you decode them and you see the deeper layers behind the scenes, you could actually apply all of that to know what's going to happen in geopolitical events or even markets. So we all saw how that went down. Again, shout out to the Wolfpack for being a part of this community at this time. We've been really knocking it out of the park lately. So since the connection to the solar eclipse right here with these 53rd day of the week, I just wanted to point something out. By the Gematria, we have solar eclipse giving us this 53 right there in full reduction cipher, and you got that 53rd day of the year. So another small connection today being that 2/22 date, definitely a powerful pivot date into tomorrow being the 2/23 date in the 2/23 year. Again, skull and bones. And this is also interesting because it's exactly 8 weeks away from April 20th, and we're actually in the 8th week of this Gregorian year. So when you think of 8 weeks, that's technically 7 weeks and 7 days, or 77. So it's important that you guys pay attention to those little nuances because that's part of becoming a decoder. You're starting to see the numbers from a different perspective. And this Friday is definitely interesting for me, being the 24th, and I'm just going to point out a couple things real quick. For one, it's the day that is the 55th day of this year, and it connects to this upcoming solar eclipse by 55 days. Again, 2 connections of 55. That's big for sure because we have Satoshi Nakamoto giving us that 55 right there in full reduction, and the Chaldean cipher. So definitely something to pay attention to. Also that 89 and that 181, 89 being the 24th prime number, 181 being the 42nd prime number, 42, 24 as above, so below, 24th day of this month. But that 55 and that 55 there is huge. We got Satoshi Nakamoto 5555. Another thing to consider about this date is we have a 69 date numerology, and that's the current all-time high for Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin created by Satoshi Nakamoto. Really quickly too, we have 55 times 2, giving us 110, and this day, April 10th, is the 110th day of the year. I mean, you know, it's just funny how all these numbers are coming together. Obviously, there's that connection as well, just by the basic maths of it all, but I wanted to point that out. 11 is your master number right there, and that's definitely an important connection. This is going to be an really interesting date. I've been talking about it now for probably over 4 or 5 months at this point, and I'm really interested to see how this pans out, especially with it being during a trading week. We have Thursday. It's not going to be on a Saturday or a Sunday like we've had in past iterations of eclipses. This one's actually going to be going down on a day where everything is trading, not just crypto. So a couple quicker connections here before we get into the TA today. We have the 24, and just wanted to show you this connection back to Satoshi with 24 right there with Chaldean. And This date connects to the vernal equinox, which is going to be March 20th. I'll show you that, by 24 days. So we have that 24th day of February. We have Satoshi, which was my earlier connection, giving us that 24 in Chaldean, as well as connecting this to the vernal equinox by 24 days, which is the day leading into the March new moon. So you could see right here, March new moon being the 21st. It's pretty much all in the same window of energy. Now, this is definitely important because you can see this date right here, March 20th, is on a Monday. And we were just talking about that moon and Monday, or the moon day. We have 24 hours in a day. This number 24 is really, really coming up a lot lately in my work, especially with its ties to Jupiter. And in my Super Bowl Decoded video, the Eagles had this 24 written all over them, and also a lot of mercurial symbolism. And that was one of my determining factors to know that they would lose, because I still felt there was negative energy around Jupiter as there was in the prior NFL season. And we could kind of just go ahead and admit it's pretty obvious now with the Bengals losing their last Super Bowl, and as well they're losing the last playoff game they had, which would have led them to the Super Bowl by the same exact score, which was 20-23, and that's right there in our year, 2-2-3. It's amazing how this is all coded in, and I was getting those 24s all over everything. I believe Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the Eagles, is 24. Okay, let's move on. This 24 days is also esoteric connection to show you. It is 3 weeks and 3 days, the 33 number of transmutation. And speaking of March 20th, this vernal equinox, or the spring equinox, it's special this year out of all years because it's tied to this Chinese year of the rabbit, which we're in right now. And the rabbit is associated with the springtime, or Venus, and her month is April. Again, it is Venus, or Aphrodite, or Apru, which is April. And this energy really kicks in on the vernal equinox. It shifts you into April, her month, as we move from Aries into Taurus, which Venus rules Taurus. So it's a big window of energy for Venus. It's important you pay attention to that. And you know, Aphrodite, or Venus, is the partner of Mars, or Aries, in the mythology. So yeah, she really gets a whole quarter. But we talked about that a while ago on my Chinese New Year Decoded. So if you're somebody who's interested in more exclusive content, I do have that full decode available on my Patreon at patreon.com/watersabove. It's only a $9.99 monthly membership, and it includes access to our private Discord server, as well as you'll get to see when I'm buying and selling, which is something I just started doing recently. I took advantage of this dip down for Bitcoin into the 21,300 area, which I exposed that was a key target for me. And I started buying not only Bitcoin, but a bunch of altcoins. So I expose those live targets whenever I am making new investments over on my Patreon. So let's get back into this, and then we're going to move into some of the TA. So speaking of Satoshi, who is allegedly turning 48 years old, and I could just quickly show you that. Of course, this is all make-believe. This is kind of just a pseudonym of a person, but it's a mythology to me. I think Satoshi is just a mythology, the mythology story of cryptocurrency blockchain technology. So we can see turning 48 on April 5th of this year, currently 47 years old. So let's do a couple connections and have fun with this. But just quickly point out, birth year of 75. When we mirror the 75, that's 57, just like we had Super Bowl 57. Pay attention to these numbers. So Satoshi turns 48 on April 5th this year. And if you take from April 5th and make a couple more connections, you're going to see that it is 48 days back from February 16th. And that 48 is right there. And that was the day that Bitcoin actually hit a microcycle top. It came into 25,000 for the first time on that day since pretty much back in August of 2022. That's a very significant connection right there. The fact that we're hitting 25K for the first time since then. And you know BTC, the ticker symbol is 25. So think about this, guys. It's been a really long time. I mean, if I connect these dates right here between when we hit 25K last time, we're looking at 180 days. That's not a short time frame. That's a half a year. and we hit it perfectly 48 days before Satoshi Nakamoto's 48th birthday. What a coincidence. So consider this, because if we go to look a little deeper into this date of February 16th, we could see it's the 47th day of the year, and technically he's 47 years old on this day, the day that just passed earlier in the week. Now, if you go from the 48th day of the year until the following day, 48 days of the year, 48 days later, that'll be the first full day of Satoshi Nakamoto being 48 years old. So this is amazing how these numbers are playing into Satoshi, and I know this is all coded into him, to this entity, to this mythology. And you could see a couple of connections here between the date numerologies as well. You have the date numerology on the 40th day of the year being 17, the date numerology 48 days later being 17, and of course 17 is the 7th prime number. The Chiefs scored 17 points in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl to win the game, right? It was all coded by the sevens. All right. So also this is 6 weeks and 6 days, the 66. I could just keep going, but let's get through this. At this point, I would seriously not be surprised if Bitcoin hits 48K on Satoshi's 48th birthday. I would not. And this is not a prediction. This is just me revealing the code. I mean, look, this exact day is the 96th day of the year, and that's the mirror of 69, which is the current Bitcoin all-time high. Can't make this up. So a final note about the number 48. If you go back 48 days from the solar eclipse, and let's just have a little bit of fun with this, you'll land on March 3rd. Now, this is pretty big, because if you look at this date of March 3rd, and continuing on this Satoshi decode with the 48, you have the 3-3, and then here it's the 303 days left in the year, the 33, and you still have the 33 on the same day, all connecting to this 48 code back to Satoshi. Definitely interesting. If you go one day before this, the day before, you have a 48 date numerology, and this is a palindrome date, the 32223, same forwards and same backwards. So the next couple of weeks are definitely going to be interesting as we open up into March. We have our monthly close for February, and we'll be stepping into a full moon energy pretty soon on March 7th. All right. So because of the window of energy here, we typically get a window either 5 days before, 5 days after, but we could just have the new moon high on the new moon. And that's essentially what we've gotten this far. We had our full moon back here. We had a little bit of a correction about 5 days after, and then we pumped up into the new moon right there on the 20th. Stayed up at about 25 for about 5 days, and then we had a little bit of a pullback thus far today, but it's negligible, and we'll be getting into the TA in a moment. So before we get into that, go ahead and give this video a like if you haven't already. Spread some love in the comment section. That's what we're all about here. And let's get into some of the analysis. So Bitcoin getting rejected about 4 times now, about 25K, and now we're getting a little bit of a back test on the prior highs of this cycle. It's the end of January. So consider that this is just a normal back test. We had a pretty dramatic correction, which was a solid buying opportunity. And I was very adamant about this correction, telling people that I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin did not fill the CME gap just yet, if we only went to about 21.5 to 21.3, which was probably the most accurate call I've made in a long time, specifically to the day. I said February 13th, and I gave my pullback target, and that's exactly how it went down. So I hope you guys are remembering what I'm sharing on my videos, because the accuracy on that is unbelievable. And I don't normally, say these kind of things. I'm not boasting. It's just we did a really good job at deciphering when we would get these dates to come to fruition with the energy and the exact prices with technical analysis. So it's a holistic system here. We're not just on the woo-woo stuff of Gematria and numerology. If you're somebody who doesn't believe it or feel like it has any merit, I hope these are the teaching and educational moments to show you that it is very important. And if you pay attention to it and use it properly, it could become one of the, sharpest, most accurate tools in your toolbox. So getting back to this, we have this pullback on the 13th and then rising up into the new moon. Now that the new moon energy is on its way transiting out, you want to consider how we're probably going to have a short-term pullback into the next full moon. And it's nothing dramatic. I don't really see us going back below the 21K territory. It would probably have to take a much more dramatic pullback in the stock market and something going down there. But I don't actually see that happening in the short term. So what we're getting right now is a really textbook pullback. I'm seeing that RSI is definitely maintaining that divergence that we were speaking on a couple weeks ago. So we're just going to disregard that this time. We need this to build a little bit more strength and support overall in this newer trading range, somewhere above this 22K area, because Bitcoin's been trading below that area now for 6 months. So now that we've shot up into this new territory pretty dramatically, this pullback that we got into a couple of weeks ago or last week was healthy. And now I think we need to gradually move up. And you could see this chart right here showing you a rejection level is definitely possible around 26K, because if I go into this more macro, you're going to see how long-term this actually is. We have from the 2013 cycle down to the 2015 lows. We have the 2018 cycle down to the C19 crash. And then we came right back down to it in June of 2022. Then trading below it, we had this bigger correction in the lunar eclipse. Now we're coming back up to it. So we're gravitating around this trend line now on the downside. It would be ideal to get above it, but no one knows exactly how that's going to pan out. For me, I feel in March, we should have a very noticeable bullish breakout, which brings us into April eclipse. And in the short term between now and the full moon, which is March 7th, there's absolutely an opportunity for us to hold this 22 to 25K territory, build a little bit of strength in it. And if you were to consider how that's going to play out, this gives us a span of about, let's just say about the next 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks, we can absolutely chop around 26K down to 22K and just have a really big, arduous trading range like we've had all the time in Bitcoin's trading history. So let me give some upside and downside targets, and then we're going to move on to Hex. I want to get that out of the way soon so I don't forget it. But we have here, Bitcoin was actually maintaining trading above this 13 exponential. It still is. And you could see this 8 simple moving average, which is the yellow moving average, was holding. Let me turn off some of these drawings to make this look a little cleaner for you guys. But all of our moving averages are still in a bullish posture. We have the 8 above the 13, 21, 34, and then this is one anomaly that's probably going to get fixed pretty soon, and it is the 200 exponential trading above the 55 simple. When that simple moving average crosses over that, when that white moving average crosses over that green, that's a signal to me that all moving averages are essentially in bullish posture on a daily, and then our macro time frames are going to be kind of where we're going to have our issues. And I brought this up in my last Red Pill podcast, how 25K is definitely a hard area to break, because if you look on the weekly chart, we have the 200 exponential and the 200 simple coiling up perfectly right there. So that's a huge resistance, and then you have that 55 simple right above it. That's why for me at this point, we need Bitcoin to start trading macro candles, a 3-day or a 5-day, even a weekly would be better, above 26K. The moment that happens, it's off to the races. I believe Bitcoin will go to 30K and probably into the mid 30K territory really fast. We're talking about within a week or two. So it's really a lot to overcome in the short term, but we had a dramatic rise into this back in early January. You can see that this 8 has crossed above the 13 and the 21. This 8's about to cross above the 34. So on this next weekly close, this is going to start looking a lot better. And all of these moving averages sitting above 20K or 21K, gives even more confidence for me that we're probably not going to move below 21 in the short term. These moving averages are looking really good. They're moving up at a normal rate. Bitcoin didn't pump too chaotically like some altcoins did. So it's really healthy now that Bitcoin has stopped and stalled out for pretty much this whole month and held this 21 to 25K territory. So on the downside, 21 is possible, but less likely that we go below it at this time by looking at the indicators, and above 26, you're looking at moves into the 30K territory. So let's get to Hex. Been having a lot of people reach out to me about this. So shout out to the Hex community. I was also interested seeing this move up that we've gotten. Let's look at a couple things. All right, so here we are. We are looking at the same chart that I shared when I was on the Crypto Coffee interview. So shout out to Crypto Coffee. I identified this selling climax and Wyckoff method far in advance for everyone. I let everyone know that the selling climax is probably coming in around this 17, anywhere below 021 and into 017. That's exactly how it went. So this is a beautiful, call. And the fact that we've had about a 200% buyback since, well, then anyone who took advantage of that call that I shared with them, well, we're looking pretty good now. Anything lower than this is pretty dramatic. So at this time, I would not anticipate Hex to go lower until maybe September, October, later in the year. That is possible. I know people might be cringing at that, but you got to remember the way that these cycles work. When we have a Shemitah, a 7-year cycle, it takes 1 year after that for the entire market to typically bottom out. The only place we don't have a lot of data for this is with cryptocurrency. But we know that if the Dow or the indices have a huge pullback, well, Bitcoin will have a huge pullback. And if Bitcoin has a big pullback, then we'll see the altcoins have a big pullback. It's not like a magic trick anymore. It's just how the market works. So I want you to see that this trend line is a very, very important trend line. We've gotten a touch point at the buying climax, another touch point, and then the final touch point before it broke structure and had a pretty dramatic pullback. Since these highs, we're looking at a 96% correction. So for me, anything over a 90% correction is good enough to start calling the short-term bottom. And then we've had a nice buyback, which I assume we're going to start to get. Actually, RSI is looking okay. Okay, never mind on that. We had another short-term trend line that I was looking at, and it's broken since. And when it broke, it just went up in a straight line. It really didn't back test it. And we've also broke this white trend line that's clearly important. It's been in play now for 500 days. So a couple things to say here. Breaking above this is good. Holding above it would be even better. And we have this 382 fib, which is pretty normal. Once you've gotten above the 236 with macro candle closures, it's typical to see a crypto blast straight to the 382. Now, when you're identifying an automatic rally, which is the next phase in all of this, and what I told everyone now for months, to have a buying climax, selling climax, followed by an automatic rally, which brings you sometimes into the golden pocket, you got to be careful above this 0.5 fib. So once Hex starts trading above 10 cents, you really kind of want to chill out and start paying attention. And hopefully you have a trading plan in place. You know, you have an investment thesis to know where to de-risk this stuff. So I have my exit strategy blueprint that's actually included within my crypto mastermind course over on my website. If you're somebody that's interested in learning more about how to do your own TA and know how to de-risk, well, this is exactly the course. And I'm just mentioning this crypto mastermind because it has 120 videos, whilst if you just buy the exit strategy blueprint separately, it's a really short course. It's also really affordable. It's about $50 and includes everything you need to know how to utilize my strategy so that you could de-risk, but it's included in this crypto mastermind if you just wanted that package and you wanted more value. So all of this analysis that I'm sharing right now is stuff that I teach in that course, and it's for people to take conservative profits along the way, to not get lost in emotions and, you know, to be uncertain, which is the biggest problem with all of this, right? Most people just don't know what they're doing. They don't know when to sell. And then when the market moves up, they get really like the FOMO kicks in even more. They think it's going to keep going and going and going, and nothing ever happens. It usually turns around at the moment where it's the most exciting. And that's the moment where most retail jumps in. So I designed this exit strategy blueprint in the mastermind course to kind of save people from that emotional roller coaster that most people are victims to. Now, I just want you guys to be careful above this 0.5 fib, but it's typical that we can get into this 618-702 territory. So there's definitely a possibility, especially with this wick right here, this area around May of 2022, where we could see a 19-cent hex. That could be your target for a buyback. So I'm open-minded to the possibility of getting into the golden pocket for this specific token, but I would not be surprised if it only makes it up to like the 618 and folds over. After it folds over, you want to be looking back to the 236 territory. if you're trying to reaccumulate in the future. So that's kind of how this market works. Your automatic rally, you get into the golden pocket, maybe rejections within the golden pocket, then you return back to the 236. If you can't hold that, you're looking at a double bottom. If something catastrophic comes up with this project in particular, or the team behind it, you can see a dead cat bounce, or you could see lower lows. So we'll watch this play by play. Maybe soon Crypto Coffee will invite me on for an interview again, and we'll go into some more analysis. So let's get into ETH and XRP and wrap this one up. ETH is kind of just doing the same thing it's done past couple weeks. I did take advantage of this drop down into 1500. When I saw it, I decided to accumulate some more Ethereum. Again, I shared that over on our Discord for the Patreon members. I also mentioned many times to not throw a party until you see over 2030 ETH, and here we are, we're still at lower highs. We have our high, lower high, and technically still our lower high here on the 16th of February. Now, we probably are going to get supported at 1500, and this wick down here of 1460 coming into this technical target around 1455, that was enough to fulfill the CME gap that opened up on this move right here. And that is done now, so I could delete it because we know that CME gap is full. And as for the technical support layer, it's going to be 15, let's just call it 1500. You could see right here, this is pretty obvious. You could see holding, pump, come back. Once we broke below it, we had a pretty decent move to the downside. Then we came right back to it, held it, broke, and then the same iteration here. This is over and over and over again what ETH keeps doing. It gets slightly above 1500 and then it pulls right back. So if we're gonna get another pullback to 1500, that would be a gift. I would definitely take advantage of that. It's definitely possible because we have between now and the full moon about 2 weeks away. Anything's possible in this matrix, and I would just look at it as another buying opportunity to take advantage of before we're seeing ETH move up to 2000 and higher into April. Now let's look at some of the upside targets in the short term. 1800 would be a good break, but until we start solidifying closures above that 888, I would not be anticipating the 2000 just yet. We could actually chop around 1780 or 1800 for a while. Like I said earlier about Bitcoin, we can make Bitcoin up to 26K, get rejected, and keep bouncing around that territory until we get through the March full moon. Let's get to XRP. XRP doing what it does best. Actually, let me look at this chart right here. This might be a little cleaner. Yes, it is. All right. Now you get to see how clean this trend line is. This thing has been going on since April of 2021. Perfect. And we've been really struggling on this lately, but the tight range of trading has become very noticeable. Now we're looking at about 31 days, a full month of just holding on this trend line, not being able to solidify a daily close above it. So I would not only like to see a daily close above this level, but I would like to see trading above the 236. Until trading above the 236, I think this trend line is going to continue to be, well, I would call it an opportunity, actually. I think this is a really good opportunity to get a sub 50 cent XRP before it's probably going to $1.10 or even $1.30 into the upcoming automatic rally, especially for a coin like XRP, which is very suppressed. I would not be surprised at least it getting into the 702 fib, and you could see what I'm talking about right there. Just follow what I said about Hex and apply it to XRP. It's the same sort of energy. We have buying climax, selling climax, and then we have an automatic rally. And I would assume our automatic rally will be in play once we really start closing above 55 cents. So we have 236 as your first condition. Then you have the structural high as your next, which would be above that 382. And then again, like I warned you, above the 0.5 fib is when you want to start paying attention, because that's when your automatic rally is coming to its finality. And the difference between the 0.5 fib and the 702 could happen in a couple of days. Look at this. You could see right here, literally, let's just zoom in and I'll show you exactly what Waters Above just said, but in actual price that has occurred. Here's your 0.5 fib, and here's the top of your 786. You got there in technically 7 days. Just boom, straight line, crashing around it, not able to get above the 786, and then boom, starting a downtrend. Okay, so you do not want to mess around. Once you get above that 0.5, it's not time for jokes, you know, especially if you're somebody that's been holding onto these assets for a while and you're trying to be a sophisticated investor and take advantage of the play. Now, downside, I'd be looking to about 36 cents, which is definitely possible on this recent move down on the 13th below 36. It's possible, but we just have to see how Bitcoin holds up, and probably take Bitcoin to get below 21K to start seeing XRP break into that 35 or 34 cent or lower. So upside target, you're looking at about 45 into 50, and that for XRP can be in a single day. So let's give this some time. Let's see how this monthly close wraps up. Like I told everyone, this is a very important week because this week leads to a bi-weekly closure, a 2-week candle, which is the day before a monthly candle. And that monthly candle also happens to be a bi-monthly candle. So the next Red Pill podcast that I do, it's going to be Red Pill Podcast 100. It's a really amazing podcast because it's not only our 100th episode, but I'm going to be covering this really crucial macro candle close for the crypto market. So if anyone wants access to that, that's over on patreon.com/watersabove. If you join today, you'd be able to get access to watch the last Red Pill podcast, all 99 of them, and prepare yourself for episode 100, which is coming soon. So I appreciate all of your support. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.